Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to today's lesson, Parallel and Perpendicular Lines. Your SWABAT is going to be to determine whether lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, and to write equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's talk about it. Parallel. Parallel, for vocabulary, the definition, non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. So parallel, super important. They have the same slope. And different y-intercepts, because otherwise they'd be the same line. If they had the same m and b, they would have the same, they'd be the same line. So different b's, but the same slope. Vertical lines are parallel if they also have different x-intercepts. So vertical lines, remember, are like this, and they just have to make sure that you have different x-intercepts in order for them to be parallel. How else do parallel lines look? Could be like that. Another example of parallel lines, if they were horizontal lines, they would go like this because the slope would be 0. But typically you'll have two lines going in the same direction, kind of like that. So those are your two parallel lines. Okay, same slope, different intercepts. So here's the first equation, y equals 1/2 x plus 3. And that is parallel to y equals 1/2 x minus 7. Why? Because the slope of this line is 1/2. Slope of this line is 1/2. Same slope means that they are parallel. Perpendicular, a little bit different. So a couple of examples of perpendicular. The most typical one will be kind of like this. So if you have a horizontal line, like here, and a vertical line, if you put them together, they will both be perpendicular. Otherwise, if one is going this way and the other one's going this way, they'll form a 90-degree angle, and that will make them perpendicular as well. So what's important about the slopes for perpendicular lines is that they have the opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals. So when I multiply them, their product will be -1. A non-vertical line and a horizontal line will also always be perpendicular. That's this example right here. Let's talk about this opposite reciprocal. In order to find the opposite reciprocals of slopes, what we're going to do is this wonderful process. I like to think of it as flip it and switch it. So if I have a slope, in order to find its perpendicular slope, or the line of the slope of the perpendicular line, I'm going to flip it and switch it. So for this example, I have y equals -2x plus 5. Well, the slope from this is -2. What's -2 as a fraction? 1. If we flip it and switch it, flipping it means I'm going to use a reciprocal. So it's 1/2. I flipped it. And then switch it. Switch it from negative to positive. And then I find that my slope is 1/2. These are perpendicular. 1/2 is perpendicular to -2. If I gave you a slope instead, and I told you, okay, the slope of the first line is 2/3. Well, to find the perpendicular slope, or the slope of the line that's perpendicular, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to switch it. So flip it, 3/2. Switch it, positive to negative. If I told you that I had a line and the slope was 5, well, the first thing I would do is put the 5/1, and then I would flip it and switch it. So 1/5, and then it was positive, so now it's negative. So it should be the reciprocal, and it should have a different sign. If it doesn't, it's not perpendicular. All right, let's talk a little bit more about parallel. Write an equation of the line that passes through the given point and is parallel to the graph of the given equation. So here's my given equation. And what's the slope of this line? I have y equals 3x minus 2. I'm going to tell you now, this -2 is something that is just there to distract you if you let it, because you don't need it at all. The only thing you need to know from this is that the slope of it is 3. Now, parallel, super duper important to me, because looking up on top, I know that parallel lines have the same slope. So there's my point, there's an x and a y, and there's my slope. I'm going to show you two different methods. So the first method is the one that you've been doing, and if you forget about it, you will keep doing this. I'll also show you a shorter one after that. So what you know is y equals mx plus b, And unless they tell you otherwise, you're going to go for this form always. Unless you see point slope form or slope intercept form, this will always be your goal. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. Instead of y, I'm going to put 2 equals m, which is 3, times x, which is also 3, just a coincidence, plus b, which is what I need. Because remember, in order to write the equation in slope-intercept form, I need the slope and the intercept. So this is 2 equals 6 plus b, minus 6 and minus 6, negative 4 equals b. Need two things, the m and the b. So now I can write my equation, y equals 3x minus 4. And then I'm going to put a box on that. Something is wrong. I can't multiply. See what I did there? What is 3 times 3? It's not 6, Miss Fitzgerald. It's actually 9. Irritating, huh? Sorry, eh? Okay. So this would be 9 plus b. Then I'll subtract 9 instead, and I have negative 7. Sorry, remix. Funny thing is, I did that twice now. Okay, so that's the method you already know. I do want to show you the other method, and that's using point slope form. Remember, point slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus y1, well, there's only one pair, so I'm going to give those ones. y1 is 2 equals m, which is still 3, times x minus 3, because that's the y1, x1. So y minus 2 equals 3x minus 9. To get y by itself, I could do it in one step. Add 2, y equals 3x minus 7. Two different ways to do the same problem. Do I care which one you use? I absolutely do not. As long as you get the same answer, I'm golden. So pick whichever method you want, either the purple or the orange, and try this problem. So here's my point, and then what's the slope of this line? Your slope is 1/4. Yes, it's a fraction, but it's a user-friendly one because 1/4 goes into negative 8. So go ahead, press pause and try it, and then unpause when you're done. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you pressed pause and now you're at unpause, and either way you did it. So I've showed my work for both methods, using slope intercept and by using point slope. You get y equals 1/4 x plus 8 for both cases, so it doesn't matter, but just double check, because if you didn't get this answer for whichever method you used, you did something wrong. So go ahead, press pause now, check my work with yours, and make sure you're all good. All right, moving forward. Determine whether the graphs of the equations are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So remember, parallel means they have the same slope. Perpendicular means they have opposite reciprocal slopes. And neither means they don't fit either of those categories. So what do I need to solve this? Well, I need the slopes from each line. Looking at part A, I have y equals 4x plus 5, and then I have negative 4x plus y equals negative 13. For this first line up top, it's nice and user-friendly because I can tell my slope is 4. For the bottom equation, though, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. So let's get y by itself first. I'll add 4x and add 4x, and I have y is equal to 4x minus 13. So the slope of this line is 4. The slope of that line was 4 also. Wow, it's amazing. What does that mean? Well, these lines will be parallel. Why? Because they have the same slope. Perfect. All right, now this one doesn't have a slope. The m would be 0. And so what that looks like is a horizontal line. 0 slope, 0 fun. When I have just an x, I also know that I have a special type of line as well, and that one is a vertical line. Remember the 4 V's in x? Vertical, 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 vertical. So what happens if I have a horizontal line and a vertical line all in the same graph? Well, it would look like this for one and this for the other. These two lines would be perpendicular. If you go back up to your definition there, you'll find perpendicular lines. If you have one horizontal and one is vertical, they're always going to be perpendicular. All right, let's try the next one. if you could please go ahead and press pause. Here's what I need you to do, and we'll do it step by step. First thing I want you to do is to take this equation, which is 3x plus 6y equals 12, and I would like for you to solve for y. Get it in slope-intercept form, because looking at it right now, I have no idea what the slope is. So go ahead and press pause and try that. Okay, so I just did that. That's what I did in the pause time. So if you didn't press pause then, you'll have to do it now in order to get all this work done. But subtracting 3x to both sides, I got 6x equals negative 3x plus 12. Divide every single term by 6. And I have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. So my slope for the first line is negative 1/2. Now, this one, I don't really need to do the same amount of work because it looks like it's in point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So what's the m? Well, for this line, my slope is negative 1/2. These also have the same slope. So what does that mean? These are parallel. There you go. All right, onward. Now we're going to write equations of lines given that they are, actually, we're going to write equations of lines that pass through the given point and that are now perpendicular to the graph. So we're going for perpendicular instead for this one. Well, I don't know what the slope of this line is because y is not by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract x and subtract x. And I have y is equal to negative 1x minus 4. I know I told you I would take off points if you did that, but right now I'm just trying to show you that the slope of this line is negative 1. Now, I'm looking for perpendicular. Perpendicular means I'm going to have to flip it and switch it. That's why I wrote it as a fraction. So flipping it is going to be 1 over 1, and switching it, it's okay, makes you go from negative to positive now. So my slope of the perpendicular line is 1 over 1. I can simplify that. My slope is going to be just 1. And your point is 3, negative 6. Now, from what we did earlier in this very same lesson up here, we had a point and we had a slope. And we had two different methods. You can either use y equals mx plus b or point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Whichever one of those methods you prefer, I would like for you to do that right now for part A here. So you can press pause if you want to, if you're feeling great about it. I'm going to go ahead and use point slope form. So if you don't like that, you can press pause, you can fast forward or hit times 2 so you don't have to pay attention to the whole thing, but just check your work with mine. So y minus y1, so that's going to be plus 6 equals 1 times x minus x1, which is 3. This is point slope form. Remembering that I switched the sign there because you have to. This is opposite signs. So y plus 6 equals x minus 3 minus 6 and minus 6. The perpendicular line is x minus 9. Perfect. Okay, so one more problem for us to do, and that is, given this point, so this is an x and here's a y, what is it if it's perpendicular to this one? So what's the slope of this line? Again, this is also in point slope form already, which is nice and user-friendly for me. So my slope is negative 2/3, but they're not parallel, they're perpendicular. So I'm going to flip it and switch it to get my opposite reciprocal. And when I do that, I have 3 over 2. If it was negative before, it's now going to be positive. So I'm going to make this positive 3/2. So y minus x1, y1, which is 3, equals 3 over 2 times x minus x1. So minus minus 8 will make this positive 8. Y minus 3 equals, I'm going to distribute 3 over 2x, and then 3 over 2 times 8. It's not stressing me out. I hope it's not stressing you out either. 3 over 2 times 8. I'll put it over 1. I like to cross cancel. So this becomes 1 and this becomes 4. So I should get 12. And it looks like it's going to be a positive 12. Okay, that's fun. But if you don't like to cross cancel, 3 over 2 times 8, you're going to have 24 over 2, which is also 12. Okay, add 3, and I have y equals 3 over 2x plus 15. Either way you do it, that's your correct answer. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Enjoy your day.